welcome to Ready for the Weekend episode 2. I'm Liam. As you can tell, it's just me on screen right now because with the joys of rural Irish internet, we weren't able to use a Skype call at all. We could pretty much only record audio, and even that was a bit laggy. So myself and Kev are instead going to splice in our predictions for 5 of the must-see sports events this weekend, and we hope you enjoy. Okay, so we're opening up our weekend with the League Cup final between Man City and Spurs. Now, I'm a Villa fan, and I have just had to sit through Man City slowly and painfully passing us to death in a 10v10 game. So I may be slightly biased here in wanting Tottenham to get the win. But let's be honest, this week neither of these two sides have made themselves remotely likeable. Don't want to go into that too much. I'm sure pretty much everyone listening has heard enough about the Super League and could do with less of that. But, I mean, look, they've got Ryan Mason in charge at Spurs, inexperienced manager, only a second game in charge, walking into a cup final against Man City. It would be pretty naive to think that he would have enough about him to go up against a City team that have looked very, very proficient this year. Played each other twice this season. City beat them 3-0 in the first outing, and then Spurs have beaten them 2-0 in the return fixture. It's one apiece, but I think I'm taking City here. They probably have the know-how and the inexperience in the managerial department at Tottenham is probably going to make this a little more difficult than it would need to be. You would have to think that with Jose Mourinho in charge, they would more than likely be able to ease their way into the game, keep things tight, but because of that, I'm leaning a 2-0 Man City win.
We have City, who has been playing fantastic football throughout the season, top of the league, and we have Tottenham, who has been dipping form in the last couple of games. Despite injuries from Man City from their star man De Bruyne, with a real risk of actually not playing the game, I still think they might actually take the win, with other factors that might lead to Tottenham Hotspur's loss, as in they lost their manager Jose Mourinho last couple of days. I think it might be a serious factor in the whole team and the management. And we've seen in previous occasions when it comes to Tottenham losing in finals. Although I hope that I'd like to see them change and actually win the final, but I still think that City might get the edge of them as they're more prepared.
Okay, so next up we have the UFC 261 main event between Kamaru, Usman and Jorge Masvidal. These are two guys I really like. I mean, Usman is one of the most dynamic guys going. I mean, we've seen him beat Covington with his hands. We've seen him have a back and forth with Gilbert Burns. And we've seen him just grind guys down like he did against Masvidal at UFC 251. Whereas Masvidal, just this overnight sensation. Those wins over Askren and Till. He is a genuine star in the UFC now. Probably not at McGregor level, but he's one of the biggest names they've got. And in this welterweight division, it does make sense that he gets that second shot. I mean, he took the fight the first time round on 6 days' notice. He's one of the only guys in the welterweight division now that has the drawing power to persuade Usman to fight him, while also sort of offering up a challenge that is fresh, because on 6 days' notice, we don't know how good a shape Masvidal is the first time round. He may have been training, he may have not, but it's a fight that is going to draw numbers, it's going to captivate an audience, and I still think that the result's going to end up the same. I think Usman is going to grind him out again and just use that really, really diverse skill set to neutralize what Masvidal has to offer. And for that reason, I'm leaning Usman by decision again.
Two experienced fighters. We got Usman and we got Masvidal in the UFC 261. These fighters have fought against each other last year, with Usman taking by decision. The fight was very close, and it's very hard to predict who would actually come with the best outcome. Masvidal is very, very good with his kicking, but I still think Usman still has potential strength. And I really think that Usman might win again. Despite Masvidal has been very, very dominant, especially in 2019, I still think that Usman will keep up his winning streak.
Okay, so our third event of the weekend, we have the co-main event of UFC 261, Zhang Weili versus Namajunas for the UFC strawweight title. I mean, this card is genuinely stacked, and for good reason. For better or worse, full capacity arena for this one, so they've stacked it with 3 title fights, and this is one I'm seriously looking forward to. I mean, Weili put on one of the greatest fights in UFC history last year with Joanna. Just unrivaled levels of violence, and this may not be on that level, but it's a really, really exciting matchup. Even if on paper the 21-1 record of Weili is just streets ahead of Rose's, was it 9-4? But I mean, that record just offers no indication at all of just how good Rose is. It's a really, really interesting matchup. They're dynamic, they're explosive athletes. They've both had knockouts on their record, and there's a little bit of tension there now. I mean, Rose's comments of some sort of communistic leaning about Weili, it's weird. It may add a little bit of heat to the rivalry here, but I don't really think it needed it. It was an interesting matchup regardless. But I, again, think this is going to be another retention. Weili looked awesome against Joanna, and even for as much as I rate Rose, I do still think that Weili just looks like she's going to go on a bit of a run with this strawweight belt.
We got 2 more experienced fighters coming up in the UFC 261 card. We got Zhang and we have Rose. Rose may have the long strength, the long arm span, but Zhang has been dominant in her martial arts and her fighting abilities. However, I still think that Rose might come with an upset and beat Zhang in the next coming days. But overall, it's going to be a very good fight to watch.
Alright, so this time last year, UK and Irish fans could not get enough of the Bundesliga, and with that not really being the case right now, we thought we'd show a little bit of love, so we have gone with the Wolfsburg Vs Dortmund game as our 4th event of the weekend. We've got 3rd versus 5th, Dortmund trying to clamber their way back into the Champions League spots. They've had a weird season. I mean, for as much firepower as they have, they really just haven't done that squad justice. It looks like they may well miss out on Champions League next season. And with players like Sancho, Delaney, Witsel, Makoko all missing, it hasn't made life any easier. Wolfsburg, on the other hand, they're sitting 3rd. They have the 2nd best defensive record in the league behind Bayern. And like Dortmund, they have an out-and-out goal scorer that will win them games. I mean, Wout Weghorst, 19 goals, 8 assists in 29 games this season. He looks amazing. He is one of the hidden gems of the Bundesliga that people really do not talk about enough. Big, great hold-up play, mobile enough, and a fantastic finisher. And one that would suit Premier League football fantastically. Then on the other side of things, you've got Haaland, 23 goals, 6 assists in 24. Phenomenal record. Going to be one of the absolute stars of the world game, if he isn't already. I really don't know which way to lean on this, so I'm going to settle with a 1-1 draw. I'll be honest, I haven't followed the Bundesliga that much.
We got 2 teams fighting for the Champions League spot. We got Borussia Dortmund and we got Wolfsburg. These 2 teams have been doing very well the last couple of games. Unfortunately, Wolfsburg has lost their last 2 games, but Dortmund's won their last 2 games. They're only with 5 points between each other in the table. But we have unfortunately got injuries in Dortmund team, like their star man Sancho. But despite that, I think Dortmund might come with a 2-0 win. Again, very interesting as the table is coming down to a close, and it takes all the next coming games.
A matchup between Philadelphia 76ers and the Milwaukee Bucks. neither of us would be exceptionally informed when it comes to the NBA. Myself, my knowledge of it doesn't span too far outside of the 2K franchise, so with that being said, this is not going to be deep, insightful analysis on whatever you can have deep, insightful analysis about with the NBA. We've got first in the East in the 76ers, and third in Milwaukee. I'm aware of their two star players in Giannis and Joel Embiid, but outside of that, most of what will be going on is a mystery to me. We thought we'd challenge ourselves to see how lucky we can get with something that we're really not that aware of. From what I looked up, the Bucks beat them in overtime back in March in their first game. They've got a doubleheader here Friday and Saturday. We're going to go with the first matchup, so the Friday game is what we're going to be picking on. And as a Villa fan, and with our ownership overlapping with the Milwaukee Bucks, I think just out of blind loyalty and through not knowing the most about what's going on, I'll pick the Bucks. And with that being said, I'll say probably by 4 points, just to sort of throw a vague and ill-informed prediction on it.
We have 76ers versus Bucks playing back-to-back on Friday and Saturday. We have 76ers who are top of the table, who look pretty strong in the season so far. And despite even a few more injuries, I still think 76ers will come in with the win.
Okay, so that brings an end to episode 2 of Ready for the Weekend. Tune in next week to see how myself and Kev got on with our predictions from this week, because as things stand, we are tied at 3 points apiece. And we will then run you through our next 5 must-see games for the weekend. So until then, see you next time.